Hi, I'm Metta Spencer, and today is a real wonderful day for me. I get to talk to a dear, dear old friend. I shouldn't say the word old friend because she's not so old. We are both old, sort of, but I mean a long-term friend because we were in graduate school together. And this is Arlie Hochschild, who has been a very dear person in my life for many years, and I would say we just don't get to see each other so much because we've each been engrossed in doing work that doesn't totally overlap, although it's so consistent, compatible and so on. So this is Arlie Hochschild, and I want to introduce you to her because I get the jump on it. She has a new book coming out, and I kind of get a scoop because I get to talk to her before it's released, although I got a copy yesterday, a digital copy, which I've been reading, and I haven't quite finished it, and I've had to do a lot of skimming to get this far, but I'm at the end where we're talking about the implications of this for the upcoming election in the US. So let's start off by looking at the transition, Arlie, between your previous book, which I think was 8 years ago, called Strangers in Their Own Land, where you were explaining the Tea Party people in Louisiana that you lived with. You went down there and hung out with them and lived with a lot of these people. And you described beautifully the way they managed to put, the politics of the fact that the way they would vote wasn't necessarily consistent with their own interests. Why would people vote in ways that contradict their own material advantage? Well, to a large extent, it seemed that they had other issues that were important. And you didn't use the word pride so much as I recall in that previous book. But now I think you've taken the notion that it's their social status that is important in society. And when that is taken away or lost, that people have to come to terms or manage the loss of pride and dignity and prestige that they feel they were entitled to and in previous times would have actually enjoyed. So the analysis that you did in Strangers in Their Own Land, I think you've elaborated with this new book in describing, I don't know whether to call them neo-Nazis, because some of them are, but most of them are just Trumpists, I guess, now. Although you've been there living more or less off and on with these people in Appalachia, in Kentucky, to get to know them. And boy, you have a wonderful book. The description of these people, you managed to make them likable, or at least I wouldn't want to go do what you did, but I can see how you could even enjoy it. Anyway, so tell me how your vision of, or your analysis of right-wingism in America has been altered or expanded since the previous book. In what way would you say that your description of the inhabitants of, what is it, Pikeville, Kentucky, are that your characterization is a little different, or is it completely identical to the description you gave of the Louisiana Tea Party people 8 years ago?
Great. Well, it's wonderful to be with you, Metta. And we are on parallel paths here, trying to make this a better world. And in these last two books, to that purpose, I've tried to understand what is it that's driving what seems like a thermidorian reaction against much of the 60s and 70s, the work on the environment, work for rights for minorities, women, better health, trying to lift the poor. Many of these progressive goals have suddenly become threatening to a sizable group of people in the United States. Today, at least 42%, by my calculation. So what's different between strangers in their own land and stolen pride? The difference is it's a new period of time. So the issues that are front and central have shifted and become more serious. In strangers, I was worried about the environmental catastrophe and people's adaptation to it, and their search for answers in a devotion to Donald Trump as with regard to social issues. Now the issue is democracy. Here's a man who promises on day one to get rid of the need for further elections. I mean, he is now. I think we have to take him at his word and look at what's said and laid out in Project 2025. So democracy, new issue, new region. This is the Deep South. It's another heavily once Democratic, now Republican area. If you count all the 13 states of Appalachia, I picked the middle of it. And it's new in its conceptualization. In a way, I'm telling a local story as an exaggerated version of a national story, which I can explain. And I'm telling a local history story as a carrier for a conceptual rethink of politics. So two things. Local story tells a national story. And that local story, I hope to carry and illustrate the power of looking at emotions, how they become redirected, how they get used by politicians. And so we have to back up and ask why those feelings are what they are. Pride and shame, central, and how they get used. They have been used historically. In the last chapter, you'll have references to pre-Nazi Germany, where again, a very shamed culture got offered a relief from shame and pride. And I think it's a paradigm that's very important. And it's going to, when you and I are long gone, that paradigm's going to continue. So I hope to convey, most importantly, that way of looking.
Well, look, I have to admit,
looking for trouble and looking for solutions. Yeah,
I haven't read the last chapter yet. I'm in a chapter where you're talking about 4 stages of the pitch, I guess, the way Trump makes his transition from being a bad boy to being a hero.
That's right.
And that, I think, is most interesting. I've always felt, and I think even before you and I started talking about this, which we haven't talked about much, I always thought of the thing about Trump is that he kind of gloats and revels in being rude and violating every norm that you can think of, and he has no shame at all. And somehow, the idea that this becomes an attractive thing to people, that people admire or like him,
That's right.
somehow he's standing up for something that they can't do. They can't defend their own rudeness and their own hidden sexism and racism and stuff. They can't display it, but he does it with pride.
That's right. I call it in the book Bad Boy Pride. There are many different bases of pride, of course. There's bootstrap pride. You work hard and you get to the top. Or survival pride, just the fact that you got through the day, you got through the year. And there's bad boy pride. The badder you are, wow, the better in that culture of pride. But just to back up to who we're talking about, I want to say that Pikeville, Kentucky, is a hub town in Appalachian region. Kentucky 5, a congressional district that is the whitest in the whole country and the second poorest. So that's what we're looking at. And why it used to be 80% in favor of Donald Trump, and they were FDR, New Deal Democrats, but they have most swiftly moved into the Republican side, and high 80% went for Donald Trump in the last two elections. So that's why I'm drawn to that. This is a region where coal jobs are out and opiate crisis has come in. And in 2017, as I was fascinated to see there was a neo-Nazi white nationalist march coming to town. I thought, oh my God, this is a perfect storm. And being the sociologist I am, like Meta, I thought, okay, let me interview people. Let me interview the villain, the leader of this march, Matthew Heimbach. Let me interview the city fathers trying to prevent any violence, did a wonderful job. Let me interview the potential victims, a Black, there was a Holocaust survivor, and an imam that ran a little mosque in this district. And then let me look at the people in this community, top to bottom, side to side. So not everybody's a MAGA Republican. A lot are Democrats, but a minority there. So that's what this is based on. But what I want to do is to kind of, while I'm telling that story, tell a story of what do we see when we look at feelings? And I'm looking at the feeling. Of course, when you're looking at that situation, there are many feelings, a feeling of sadness and loss. The community has gone downhill. There's a feeling of fear. Oh my God, if it's going this far down the hill, it can go further down. And anger, gosh, why isn't anybody helping us? But there's also a feeling in a proud region like that of lost pride and sort of wondering who took my pride away. So what is pride and shame? All of us want to feel proud, and all of us dread feeling shame. This is part of the human condition. And in a way, pride is the skin of the self. It's what we feel about how we think others see us. It's not guilt, where it's your own evaluation of your actions that you're in response to. This is your reaction to how you feel other people see you. And we all are aware of that. And so how can that actually be drawn into kind of the underside of politics so powerfully? This book is a story of that, and you spoke of the 4 moments. There is a ritual. I am arguing in this book that Trump is was the shame president, wants to be the shame president again. I think he's a shamed man himself. I don't think he reads. And, had a very harsh father and was sent off to military school. And he really proud people don't behave the way he does. He's okay. So he's a shamed person, but he happens to have forged as a charismatic leader among people who are looking for a charismatic leader, a kind of shame alliance. And why are they looking for a charismatic leader? Because they've given up on government as a real source of help for them. Many of them, they doubt it. They've been waiting for help. They feel unhelped. They feel forgotten. And they are in trouble. This, by the way, background again, whites with non-college whites are 42% of the American population. And they've been sinking over the last 3 decades, both absolutely in income and opportunity and in health and in more diseases of despair, suicide, alcoholism. So that's their story. Absolute loss and also relative loss, because if they look at their BA, more educated whites are going up in those last 3 decades, and Blacks, even without BAs, are also going up. So their loss is both absolute and relative. And it's taking a form of, I think, loss, absolute loss. You've lost your coal job and you have to go to Cincinnati and leave the community, try and find another job, not paying as much. And there's a whole social logic to that downward mobility, disrupted families, high divorce, foster care up, and vulnerability to drugs. So that is their loss. And somehow, not just loss of what they had, but a devaluation of what they knew and took pride in. So this is the economic, what I'm calling the material economy. That's the story there, loss. But there's also a pride economy. These are very proud people who've had a rough time for a long time, and they've long been poor. Were kind of shoved out of Europe, many Scots-Irish background, and came to Appalachia. It's a tough environment. So they're very proud to have, and of their resilience and capacity to keep going. So very proud, but now downwardly mobile. And in the pride economy, the material economy, but the pride economy, they've lost ground. Mm-hmm. And I want to make one more point before we get to how Trump uses this. But I think they're stuck in a pride paradox. And the paradox is this: they're in a rougher economic circumstances, but they're also tougher on each other. That is, they're more, do they hold to an old version of the Protestant ethic? Look, if I succeed, that's my individual success and my individual pride. I've earned it. And if I fail, the mind closes, it automates, it offshores. That's me that failed. I failed. So that's a tougher version, a tougher culture of pride together with worse economic circumstances. And on the other hand, in the blue states where the economy is booming and more opportunities, there are people who have a more modern version of the Protestant ethic. They think, okay, if I succeeded, well, there were advantages I had that helped me, and the company I worked for is more invulnerable to offshoring automation. So, Breeze was behind my back. And if I fail, that's not altogether my fault. Yes, some, but circumstances influence. It's a more circumstantial culture of care. And so you're easier on yourself, but you also have easier circumstances. That's the pride paradox.
Connected with that, it makes me wonder, does this partly explain their tolerance for, admiration of, and they don't resent rich people. They don't resent Donald Trump for being a billionaire. They, in fact, maybe they say, well, he deserved it because, if you get rich, it's because you've worked harder, you've somehow deserved it.
It's
so they don't.
Yes, great point. Great point. It must be something about him, not his circumstances, not his class advantage or race or gender or anything. It's he that exactly.
But, you would normally think poor people who are feeling oppressed would resent rich people. They don't seem to resent billionaires. But, what they are resenting are elites. You snobby, urban, educated. Why, by the way, did they hang out with you? How could you get on such good terms with people? Because you're just the kind of person they probably resent the most.
I know, but let's go, and I'll come to how I do this kind of work. But you were mentioning, how does Trump use shame as a political tool? Why is it important to know why they respond to him? I mean, all liberal left are scratching their head. Oh, these must be crazy people. These must be stupid people. These must be uneducated people. And in this book, I say, no, this could actually happen to a lot of us. But why? I mean, it's so irrational. This guy brought them no good luck in his 4 years at Appalachia. No good luck there. Coal did not come back, though he promised it, and good jobs did not come in to substitute it. Opiate prices did not go away, and his big tax breaks for the rich did not help the second poorest congressional district in the country. So he's not, in fact, helping them. Why, if they're not nuts and they're not stupider than you, why does this happen? And they are not nuts and they are not stupider. But they are victims of the kind of syndrome, of shame syndrome that I describe in this book. This is my belief. So what are the 1, 2, 3, 4? I think how Trump appeals to people is through an anti-shame ritual. And it's got, as you say, Meta, kind of 4 moments. In moment 1, he says something transgressive. Immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. Okay. Or this judge cannot be fair because he has immigrant background. Okay. He'll say something transgressive.
Or he gropes a woman on an airplane.
And then he'll say, that's fine. That would be the transgression. Yeah. And moment 2 the punditry shames Donald Trump. You can't say that. You're an American, you're a president. This is an immigrant society. That's a terrible thing to say. You're dishonoring people. No, bad. So that's moment 2. Moment 3, Trump positions himself as the victim of the punditry's shaming. Okay, so, look at what they do. They're talking terrible things about me. I am suffering from the elite's shaming. And this is difficult. I'm suffering for you. You've been shamed. I've been shamed. We're being shamed together by the people who just said something disapproving of me. So that's moment 3.
Yeah, but there's another thing. You can't do it. I know you can't get away with it, but you see, I can get away with it. I'm big enough and rich enough so that I can say for you what I know you really would say if you felt free to do so, right?
Exactly. That's a great point. That I'm shamed like you're shamed, but I'm a different kind of shamed person because I'm more powerful. And moment 4 is the big deal. Moment 4 is when he roars against the shamers. He says, you nefarious press, you treasonous officials, you useless bureaucrats, always outward turning, shame to blame. And so that's his big roar back. And they love that.
Mm-hmm.
There is cathartic. I think when you just look at the rational things, you look at policy, positions, you are missing the main thing, which is the catharsis that people feel at that roar back, precisely for what you're saying, Meta, that he's powerful enough in his self-presentation to get revenge for them as they would like to do. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that people on the liberal left are looking at 1 and 2 and stopping the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But I understand why they would stop, because I go through step 4 and then I think, oh, now what to do about it? And I haven't a clue.
Well, then that's the conversation we need to have, because that's what's going on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the point of the book is there is a 3, there is a 4. And that's the steam. One man I talked to said, oh, Donald Trump, he's like lightning in a jar.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I want to understand the lightning. I'm here from outer space, Berkeley, California, but I'm really interested in shame and pride and how it works. Will you help me co-think this thing? What is that lightning? And so I presented to this man, this pro-Trump man, look, I think it working with this 1, 2, 3, 4, this shamed population, it's been downwardly mobile. It's 42% that are turning right, and even now hard right. That's who we need to understand and help me understand it. And I said, this 1, 2, 3, 4, do you think he does that? Is that working? He laughed. Oh, yeah, I think so. And then I said, do you actually think Trump pokes the bear? That is, he tries to find something else provocative so as to get 2 going and 3 going and 4 going, and the whole anti-shaming ritual enacted. And he laughed again. Yeah, he pokes the bear. Another man said to me, yes. Oh, that's definitely true. And the left falls for it every time, and the media makes a mint by covering it. That's who you're talking to there. These are two
Okay, now,
Republicans.
these are people who themselves would still go ahead and vote for Trump, right? Even though they understand your analysis, it doesn't it doesn't make them rethink their own.
Because they're more frightened and appalled by what the Democrats are doing.
Okay. Okay.
And they blame the loss of coal on Obama by his bringing in environmental regulations, even though they know that cheaper natural gas is what led to the loss of coal, which has gone in the last 4 decades from being over half of the source of electrical power in America to 16%. But that's not all because of Obama's cleaning up the environment. It's
More than that, Arlie, when you talk about, well, how are we going to get out of this problem in general? I mean, we're not talking just about American people who were coal miners. We're talking about the whole world. The right wing is, the same thing is happening in other countries. I don't know whether the logic behind it is exactly the same, but
we should look. We should look.
Okay, we should look. Is it always the same? Is it is it really a sort of a counter revolution, a reaction of rural, old-fashioned values against, and the sense of being disregarded or disrespected for sort of an antiquated lifestyle? If so, there's no solution that comes from just pretending to be nicer to these people. I mean, you do it and you get away with it, but I couldn't fake it, I don't think, because they're right. I do disrespect them, and I think most of my friends disrespect them, and I can't pretend otherwise. And the worst is we haven't even touched the real challenges that are coming. I mean, the loss of coal can't be reversed because we've got global warming. That's not even in the equation. And we've got, in terms of the sophistication of urban elites and educated people, the resentment of you and me and our friends, that can't be undone, because in fact we're going to be ourselves losing our jobs to AI. And
exactly.
There's no future in which we can go backward. In terms of culture, if anything, our culture, yours and mine, will itself be similar to we'll be resenting these smart ass machines that are so much better than we are. And
you've
so
anticipated my last chapter. You haven't read it, but you've just rung one of the bells that I say in the last.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But the difference is, Meta, I don't disrespect them. I honestly do not. And I have met very many brilliant people who've taught me a lot. And this man I was just talking about, who was voting for Trump, is an anguished, very, certainly very knowledgeable, I wouldn't say reflective, but a guy who's interested in renewable energy. He wants to put solar panels on top of these sawed-off mountains. There's mountaintop removal that engineers have done in order to get to coal without hiring miners. What they do is just use machines to do it. It's devastating to the environment. And he's come around. He's not anti renewables. In fact, he's got an application in to one of the Biden build back better funds, and that's what he would like to do. So I don't believe in giving up on people like that. And I think there are an amazing number of conversations we could have. I see a lot of potential common ground. And I do think that within that 42% that have gone from left to right and who are actually to me, the most important sector for us to look at. We need to peel off, 6 or 7% of them in swing states to get the Democrats back in power, and then mend some of the problems of some of the unanswered needs that have led to this movement to the right. I think there's a lot of repairs that we need to do, but I think at the moment it's a crucial group, and I'm not for ignoring them, and I'm not for disrespecting them. Actually,
okay. I would be, try to be, progressive and thoughtful and kind. I try not to be abusive or snobbish, but I just don't quite see how we can revalue a culture that, wants to talk about the right to own shotguns and have separate toilets for boys and girls and nothing in between, and no, guys can't marry guys, and those are the preoccupations. And even if we don't sneer at their backwardness, we don't agree with it, and I don't know how to symbolically elevate their dignity for holding those views. I just think we have to wait until they die out, and we're dying out with them. So I don't know. I don't know of an answer to look. If it were just money, you could say, well, the budget, we can jiggle around the budget and give them more money somehow. But it's not primarily material, insofar as it's a sense of lost prestige. I don't know what you can do about that, really.
Well, there's a lot you can do about it, Meta, and I think that part of what we need to think of politics as is doing something about it. If they feel devalued, if they've lost their world, they feel, many of them, that the whole status system, which gave them pride, is kind of melted. And they feel both down and out. And I don't think we can just wait till they die off in a state of down and out. That's not my politics. I
don't try to be
I'm interested in them because they are. That's why I'm there. And I actually, they used to be 80% in the 96 for Bill Clinton. So you wouldn't have called them stupid and backward then, and no need to call them that now. And there are differences, of course, in values, but I think, and I think Walz and that the dance ahead with Harris and Walz will be to not go back. We're not going back. You heard that refrain in the Democratic National Convention. We're not going back, but we are, when possible, reaching across. And I think we've got to do the reach across 42% of the American population is a very large minority. Now, it's very large. They got Donald Trump into the White House last time. Now he knows more clearly the damage he would like to do. And he's trying for it again. And if we just say, oh, they're hopeless, no, don't know what I could do, I don't agree with them, I look down on them, I can disguise it, but I look down. I think that's both strategically missing the boat. I think you're giving up on the most kind of important thing we can do. And I think morally too. It doesn't feel good to look down on people. Yes.
I agree. I'm just confessing my sins, and my sins include pride of accomplishing some things that those people haven't. And just logically, I don't go around gloating. And I think I'm decent to people with whom
Yes.
I try to be. But
Yes,
I think they sense the truth, which is, yeah, in any hierarchy, if you got some people who are succeeding, you're going to have some people who are losing. And that is, the one thing that Donald Trump will never be is a loser. And so that's important. Now, the answer that you're giving is the right answer. If everybody made all the kind of effort that you do to be as open and generous, warm-hearted, and as you are, then I think they'd come around. As a matter of fact, it makes me wonder whether, you don't talk about how they asked, what questions they asked you, how they felt about you. You talk about them, but your being there has to have had an impact on the people that you interviewed. And there's nothing that could be done better for Pikesville, Kentucky, than to send about 100 more Arlie Oakshills to live there and hang out with them and take this guy Matthew to lunch, which you've done a number of times. This Nazi guy, by the way, how you say he changed? I'm not quite sure how he changed. Did you have anything to do with it? Are you sure that your presence didn't contaminate the results of your study?
I'm not sure. Adam says, look, now he's not a Nazi anymore. You pulled him to the, to the angelic side. No, I think and in the book, there's another explanation for his conversion, but it points to a strange crossing of lines that is the book is structured around. The guy who's the villain in the piece at the beginning of the story, neo-Nazi, racist guy, violent. He gradually, now he's thinking about getting a nursing degree, and he's renounced many of his beliefs, but not all of the beliefs. It's kind of not an entire conversion, but he's softened, certainly. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, who started with notes of, proud again, proud again, proud again, which turned into shaming you again, and pointing his finger at the deep state and all migrants, going to lock them up, and he's inviting neo-Nazis to have dinner with him at Mar-a-Lago. So while the villain at the beginning of the story gets softer, the quote hero to many of them becomes more villainous. And people, in a way, the people I came to know are not as extreme as Donald Trump, but they haven't moved either. They're still going to vote for him. Less enthusiastically now, but they are frightened that the other side, the Democrats, will be elevating every other social group but them. And their view is that, well, the Democrats say they're for diversity, but the one social group they can't accept are poor whites. There's a prejudice against poor whites.
Mhm.
And so if that's the party of the prejudice against poor whites, and I'm poor white, I'm not going to go for it. So from their point of view, there's that is their point of view. We have to learn to talk to them across our differences, understanding their point of view, and finding that we actually don't even agree on what we disagree on. That's another whole set of findings in this book. It turns out, first of all, that liberal Democrats are far more likely to cut off a conversation with a person they see they disagree with than are conservative Republicans.
Really?
And whites are more likely to cut it off than blacks are. So we're not great at reaching across. It's also true that left and right each misunderstand the positions of the guy on the other side, but people on the left misunderstand it more. That is, they misjudge the positions of their adversary more than Republicans misjudge the positions of their adversary. And that, even worse, education does not reduce that fact. That is, Democrats who are highly educated are no better at judging what the other guys think than are uneducated Democrats. So there are a series of hard facts there that this book
it's
is
not hard. It's you describe me. I've told you, I've confessed that that's exactly my problem, and I don't see a way to get around it. You know, it is that's life. That unfortunately, I don't. You say it's a moral flaw. I'll agree it's a moral
I
flaw,
never
but
said
I
that.
don't know how to fix it. And
well, I think we can all change.
no, well, I'm not so sure, but I also think I want to know, didn't those people want to know about your opinion? And don't you think when they talked to you about your views, and I suppose you answered them and told them what you believe if they asked you, and you were so nice to them that probably you say they're still going to vote for Trump. So you've been still in touch with them since you've written the book, and you're in contact with them, and you know that you haven't changed their politics yet. I'm surprised, because I would think if anything is going to work, it's exactly what you do, is just be nice to people. And maybe I'm not nice enough, and I'll try harder, but I'm telling you, it's built into the hierarchy. If you're going to have a hierarchy, it's going to be somebody's going to be aware of it.
What do you mean by being nice?
Well, I presume when you invited Matthew, the Nazi, to lunch, well, you probably paid the bill, and you invited him and made it clear to him that you were not going to jump all over him and accuse him of anything, and that you tried to understand his point of view, and you were trying not to judge him, something like that. That's what I mean by being nice.
What I mean by being nice is something different. It means, first of all, being honest. I told him I'm writing a book and I want to portray you accurately. And that's what I'm offering you. And I've really got an open ear. In fact, a trained open ear is what I think sociology is. just coming to judgments, and when a conversation is exchanging judgments, I don't think it's being nice, and it's certainly boring. So I'm promising him openness, and that's surprisingly rare, and I think valued when he senses it. He asked me remarkably little about myself. I wasn't
Really?
holding it in. Yeah, and most of them. The
But
excitement.
don't you think you're a Berkeley, lefty. And don't you think he knew that or assumed that?
Yes, of course, all of them. And I tell them, look, you want to know who I am? Google me, get through the consonants and the last name, and there I am. It's all in print. You'll know exactly who I am. I've written 10 books, and you can tell what my perspective is and, my set of meanings. So for me, being nice is opening a door. It is not an expression of decorum and feminine sweetness. It's opening a door. It's a very serious, even diplomatic kind of, and even strategic search for common ground. And arch enemies can get together, but they do it wisely when they really know what the other guy is like and what makes them tick. Nelson Mandela, who is my model, really knew what the Afrikaner mind was. He did his negotiations in Afrikaans. I admire that. And that's the kind of being nice, I think, that I'm for. I think it adds to the world, and just
I do too, dear. And I'm just saying, I hope you take it as a compliment that you are much, much better at it than I am. I wish I could be better at it. And in fact, I want to say that I think that what you're doing is the only solution I know of that would actually change public opinion. And that's doing it one by one, somebody going in and hanging out with people and just being nice to them in the sense that you say. I don't see that as an easy platform to win an election. We only have a few days in which to run around taking out people to lunch and trying to be nice in the way that you talk about it. I don't think we can do it. So what else have you got?
Well, what I've got is what my granddaughter is doing now. She's just finished her freshman year at Occidental College in Los Angeles. And they have a campaign semester where you actually get credit for going to a swing state, and you can be in whatever party you are, but it has to be a state where it's not, you can't be a Democrat and go to a Democrat state where everything's sealed and go around and talk to people. She's gone to Arizona. She's now in Phoenix and spending 9 to 5 days. It's 100 degrees, so she goes out with lots of water. And she's doing it for a labor union that has a list of undecideds, people who were undecided on this. And she's boned up on all of the issues, and Garrigo is a candidate for senator that she's campaigning for. But that's what she's doing, and she's talking to people. And she said she's just learned a ton. And there was one guy who said, I'm not going to vote at all. African-American guy. And so she's going through things. She said, there's actual $300 bonus to new parents that the Harris Waltz ticket believes is right, really supports new parents. And I said, no, I had no idea. And he actually, she told me yesterday, she was so thrilled. He said, look, I see you've worked so hard to know the substance of these issues, and you're telling me, and I'm going to vote, not because they're great, I don't know if they are, but because you put this much time into coming to talk to me. Okay, she's, quote, being nice, but she in a very particular, effective way. So I think there are many strategies out there that it's not too late. And as Michelle Obama said, can you do something? And that's what we can do.
Okay, well, I absolutely am sure that you're right. And I hope I'm much wronger than I think I am.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, look, so what tell me the trajectory now. Your book comes out when, and how can people get it, and where will you be speaking? You're probably going to give some talks.
Yeah.
What's being lined up for you?
Okay, the book comes out September 10th. And my itinerary for the book tour is on the website of The New Press, which is my publisher. It's a great publisher. It's a little nonprofit, and I just love them. So The New Press and Stolen Pride has I'm going to be talking in a bunch of different places about it.
It's wonderful to see you again, dear. And just,
yes,
I'm thrilled that you've done this. It sounds like the one really profound analysis of motivation that everybody in the world should be thinking about. Because I don't think this can be it can't just be an explanation that applies to the current US situation. Globally, there's this trend, and it's something about fear of the future and of the sophistication that's going to be required to be successful and dignified and prominent in society in that new world. And we're all going to feel it. I think, it's not just limited to coal miners.
No, exactly. You're spot on. Well, thank you so much, Meta.
That's fun. Love you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, dear. Okay. Project Save the World produces these forums, and this is episode 627. Watch them or listen to them as audio podcasts on our website, tosavetheworld.ca. People share information there about 6 global issues, and we welcome your comments too. To find a particular talk show, check the scroll list on the homepage or use the search bar. Project Save the World also produces a quarterly online publication, Peace Magazine, which now serves as a free-of-charge newsletter to help mobilize knowledge about 6 global threats to humankind. We currently email the magazine as a PDF or link to any interested organization in the world that works to prevent a global catastrophe involving war and weapons, global warming, famine, pandemics, radioactive contamination, or cyber risks. Just email us at office@peacemagazine.org and we'll add your group's email address without charge to our list. For individual subscriptions at $20 Canadian per year, go to pressreader.com on your browser and search for Peace Magazine.